Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through fascinating topics and a lot of information to bring you the crucial insights. Think of it as your shortcut to being well-informed.
A great way to put it.
Today, our mission takes us into the, well, captivating realm of Chinese civilization. And we're using recent expert discussions in Chinese archaeology to understand its origins and, ongoing evolution.
Exactly. And these debates, they have real weight. We're drawing from a recent YouTube transcript with some leading voices.
And these aren't just like dry academic questions, are they?
Absolutely not. For the Chinese people, understanding where they come from, the story of their ancestors, the whole long arc of their civilization, it's a matter of profound national significance.
Right. Connects past, present, future.
That's it. And it's not just about looking back either.
You mean how archaeology is actually done?
Yeah. The way it's being done in China is evolving. It's becoming much more strategic, comprehensive.
Okay.
The recent discoveries at the Sanxingdui site, they really highlight this modern, proactive approach.
So tell us about that. What makes Sanxingdui so different?
Well, it's fascinating. The approach there is miles away from older methods. It's even been likened to a super large spacecraft landing on Earth.
A spacecraft?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. I mean, picture this huge steel structure, totally transparent, covering the excavation site.
Why?
And inside that, you have these individual glass cabins protecting the sacrificial pits while they're being unearthed.
That sounds like something out of science fiction. Is it just for show?
Oh, no, there's a real purpose. It allows for this amazing multidisciplinary collaboration.
Okay, so not just archaeologists digging.
Right. Experts from over 30 institutions are involved. You've got archaeologists, cultural relic protection specialists, obviously.
But others too?
Yeah. People in fields you wouldn't immediately connect, like ophthalmology, zoology, botany, environmental science.
Ophthalmology. How does that fit in?
Well, perhaps for analyzing residues or microtraces, things like that. The point is, this diverse expertise is crucial because the historical records for the ancient Shu kingdom, that's the civilization behind Sanxingdui, they're quite limited.
So archaeology is basically our main window into their world.
It really is. And Sanxingdui itself, I mean, it's a monumental discovery, right? It has this almost mythical status.
It does. People talk about it all the time.
And rightly so. It's widely seen as one of the most significant archaeological finds of the 20th century. But, its beginnings were pretty humble.
How so?
Well, a farmer first found some pottery fragments back in 1929, but larger digs didn't really start until 1980.
Okay.
And even then, the focus was mostly on pottery fragments. And remarkably, a lot of them were just sort of stored away without deep analysis.
So these potentially revolutionary artifacts were just sitting in storage. That seems unbelievable now.
It does, yeah. Until 1984, that's when Mr. Civilisation, who was a real giant in Chinese archaeology, visited the Sichuan Provincial Museum.
And he saw these stored fragments.
He did. He stumbled upon these forgotten pieces from Sanxingdui over 3,000 years old. He recognized their potential significance and actually knelt down to get a closer look.
Wow, kneeling down. That really paints a picture. What did he see that others had missed?
This is where it gets really interesting. He noticed subtle variations in the string patterns on the pottery.
Tiny details on pottery.
Exactly, seemingly small differences, but he looked at them through the lens of his three-part theory. Ancient culture, ancient city, ancient state.
Okay.
And these variations suggested a level of standardization, a continuity of production. It pointed towards a more complex social organization, maybe even that ancient state level he was theorizing about.
So social division, evolving relationships, all hinted at in the pottery pattern.
Precisely. He wasn't just seeing broken pots. He was seeing clues about how a sophisticated civilization developed.
Incredible. And his insight was crucial.
Absolute pivotal. Apparently there were talks around that time about maybe stopping the work at Sanxingdui. Yeah. But Civilisation, based on those fragments, he insisted they continue. He even predicted major discoveries were coming.
And he was right.
Spectacularly so. Just 2 years later, 1986, they unearthed those 2 sacrificial pits. And that's when the world saw those extraordinary artifacts.
The bronze masks, the huge standing figure, the gold masks, gold scepters.
Yeah.
It must have been electrifying.
It truly was a turning point. Now, let's shift focus a bit closer to where we're broadcasting from, actually, to the Liangzhu culture in Zhejiang.
Okay, Yangtze.
Here we find evidence of two ancient city site clusters that are even older than Sengxindui, significantly older, dating from around 3300 BC to 2300 BC.
Wow, so we're jumping back over 5,000 years ago.
Exactly. And the Liangzhu site shows a highly complex society. We're talking clear evidence of urban planning.
Like city layouts.
Yes, and extensive water conservancy projects nearby, which is an amazing feat of engineering for that time.
Absolutely.
Plus, stratified burials showing social hierarchy and these stunning jade artifacts. They clearly point to a well-developed belief system.
Jade seems key for Liangzhu, doesn't it?
Immensely significant. They had sophisticated rice agriculture, too, and were highly skilled in crafts. Not just jade carving, but pottery, silk weaving, other textiles.
The very advanced culture for its time.
Definitely. And what's particularly striking is the evidence for widespread interaction, exchange, during that Liangzhu period.
How widespread?
Well, get this. Jade artifacts with remarkably similar dragon motifs have been found from Guangdong way down south all the way up to northern Shaanxi over 5,000 years ago.
That's a huge area for that era. It suggests a lot of connection.
It really does. It seems to be the earliest known example of a ritual society using jade as like a primary medium across such a large territory.
Fascinating.
Now, this brings us to a big ongoing international debate. When did Chinese civilization actually begin?
Right. I've heard about this. Some say it only starts with writing.
That's a common argument. Some scholars argue verifiable history only kicks off with the Shang dynasty's oracle bone script, which is about 3,500 years old.
So for them, no writing means no civilization.
That's a central part of their view, yeah. However, a big moment came in 2019.
What happened?
The 43rd UNESCO World Heritage Committee unanimously recognized the Liangzhu ancient city site, and they explicitly stated it provides irrefutable factual and academic support for 5,000 years of Chinese civilization.
That UNESCO recognition must carry a lot of weight in this debate.
It certainly did. Powerful evidence based on concrete archaeology. This whole question, the origin of Chinese civilization, it's way more than just academic sparring.
How so?
For the Chinese people, it's deeply tied to national identity, their understanding of history, their cultural roots. It's about who they are.
It's piecing together that collective story stretching back thousands of years.
Exactly. And for a long time, the main view, even within China, was that the Yellow River Basin was like the single primary origin point, the cradle.
But that's changed.
Significantly. Thanks to amazing progress in Chinese archaeology over the last 70-plus years, we found crucial sites along the Yangtze River, too. Liangzhu, Sengxingdui, Xijiehe.
So the picture is much more complex now.
Much more. Mr. Su Bingqi, him again, he proposed his many stars in the sky theory.
Many stars in the sky. That's a great image.
Isn't it? It suggests that China's vast, diverse territory nurtured multiple distinct cultural traditions. These interacted, influenced each other, sometimes clashed, and eventually merged over huge stretches of time.
So not a single trunk, but more like a network of converging roots.
That's a perfect way to think about it. It fundamentally shifts our understanding from one single source to this dynamic tapestry of interconnected cultures.
Can you give us an idea of these different stars, these regional cultures?
Sure. Su Bingqi identified about 6 major regional spheres in the late Neolithic. You've got the Central Plains with the Yangshao culture.
Okay.
Then Shandong northern Jiangsu area with the Wenku culture. The Jiangyan Plain and Sichuan Basin home to Chu and Bashu cultures.
Yeah.
The lower Yangtzes with Hemudu and, of course, Liangzhu. The Southwest, a big area from Poyang Lake down to the Pearl River Delta, and then north of the Great Wall Hongshan culture, Dadiwan culture.
It paints a picture of a really vibrant, interconnected, ancient world across what's now China.
It really was. And it's through their long-term interactions, these regions, that the pluralistic unity defining Chinese civilization gradually formed.
Pluralistic unity, that's a key concept.
Very much so. And President Xi Jinping has also stressed the significance of archaeology's achievements across all these historical periods, Neolithic, Bronze Age, Iron Age.
Highlighting China's contributions.
Exactly. Highlighting China's leading role globally in things like agriculture, domestication, medicine, astronomy, tools, writing, technology, cities, state formation, art, the list goes on.
So recognizing these diverse achievements builds cultural pride.
Absolutely. They reflect this pioneering, innovative, resilient spirit that's always been part of Chinese civilization, and it provides a solid foundation for, cultural confidence.
Which leads to this idea of China as a civilizational country.
Right. A huge entity formed by unifying many historical states over millennia, resulting in a culture that's incredibly rich and diverse, both through time, thousands of unbroken years, and across space, all its regions.
It even affects how things like landscapes are perceived, doesn't it? Like mountains.
That's a fascinating point you raise. While in many places mountains are just seen as, well, natural features, in China they're often deeply imbued with cultural meaning.
Holding stories, legends.
Exactly. Traces of historical figures, heritage sites. These cultural layers are almost everywhere if you know how to look.
It's a really compelling perspective. Now, let's maybe shift gears slightly. Let's talk about Chinese archaeology itself as a discipline. It's relatively young in historical terms, isn't it?
It is, relatively speaking. The year 2021, in the context of the video source, marked the centenary of modern Chinese archaeology. The story really kicks off around 1921.
Okay, what happened then?
A key figure was a Swedish scholar, J.G. Anderson. He was a mining advisor to the Beiyang government at the time.
The government based in Beijing back then.
Right. Anderson, based on earlier info, organized the first excavation at Zucudian, which of course is world famous for the Peking man fossils.
A truly foundational site for human origins.
Absolutely. And in that same crucial year, 1921, Anderson himself led a dig at Yangshao village in Henan.
Yangshao. That sounds familiar.
That's where he found that prehistoric culture known for its painted pottery. He proposed the Yangshao culture concept, seeing it as a root of ancient Chinese culture and hoping to find even earlier stuff.
So Anderson's discoveries really sparked interest within China itself.
They definitely did. The very next year, 1922, Peking University set up an archaeology research office, the first dedicated archaeology department in a Chinese university.
A big step.
Huge. Then, 1927, the Institute of History and Philology was founded within Academia Sinica, with archaeology as a vital part.
So quickly gained academic footing.
Precisely. A key person then was Mr. Li Ji, teaching at Tsinghua. He became head of the archaeology section and led major excavations.
Where did he dig?
At Longshan in Shandong, and crucially at Yingsu near Anyang in Henan, starting in 1928.
Yingsu, the Shang Dynasty capital site. Incredibly important.
Hugely important. Over the next decade, they ran 15 digs there. Later, Liang Xiang, son of the famous scholar Liang Qikao, really improved the field methods.
Making it more professional.
Exactly. Establishing the rigor and direction of Chinese field archaeology. The 1920s and 30s, that's really seen as the first golden age.
What were the main achievements then?
They basically mapped out the cultural sequence in the Middle and Lower Yellow River, from Peking Man through Yangshao, Longshan, up to the Shang Dynasty.
That must have been an incredibly exciting time of discovery.
It really was, and the Yingsu finds were paramount, not just artifacts, but the oracle bone inscriptions.
The writing.
Yes, which directly confirmed historical records of the Shang Dynasty. Solid proof. Plus, the digs showed the layers Yingsu on top of Longshan on top of Yangshao.
Establishing the timeline.
Crucially, yes. It established the chronology for prehistoric materials and tied archaeology directly into historical studies from the very beginning.
So it wasn't just finding things, it was connecting them to the story, the timeline.
Exactly. Then, after the PRC was founded, the Institute of Archaeology of the Chinese Academy of Sciences was set up in 1950. Liang Xiang was involved again.
And that became the main force.
Became the leading force in Chinese archaeology, yes. Later part of the Academy of Social Sciences.
And I guess with all the national development projects later on, more sites started turning up.
Dramatically so. Large-scale infrastructure work led to a surge in discoveries, which created an urgent need for trained archaeologists.
Right. You needed people who knew what they were doing.
Exactly. So Peking University started the first dedicated archaeology major in its history department in '52. Trained a lot of specialists.
And other universities followed.
Yes, programs popped up in universities across different provinces, creating this nationwide system for research and training.
A real push to build that expertise.
It was systematic and vital. After this initial phase, Chinese archaeology grew rapidly post-1950s, hitting what many call a second golden age in the 1980s.
What characterized that second golden age?
Well, large-scale cooperative projects alongside huge national infrastructure works. Think Three Gorges Dam, South-North Water Diversion.
Massive projects. Did they find a lot?
An incredible amount. These projects rescued countless artifacts, but also generated unprecedented archaeological data.
And working on that scale must have given a broader view of regional cultures?
Precisely. Big progress was made in refining regional culture sequences. Plus, the big Xiashang Zoo chronology project tried to pin down the timeline for early China.
Trying to build that comprehensive framework.
Yes. And major research breakthroughs happened too. On human origins, the beginnings of agriculture in China, how ancient societies evolved, state formation, the rise of the unified empire. Archaeology shed light on all of it.
It's amazing how much archaeology has revealed. Let's dig into some of those key research areas. Maybe start with human origins. That's always fascinating.
It really is. And often debated. The most widely known theory is out of Africa, right? Modern humans originate in Africa, then spread out.
And there's a lot of fossil evidence from Africa supporting that.
There is. But there's another perspective particularly relevant in the Chinese context.
What's that?
The multi-regional evolution hypothesis, championed by the Chinese paleoanthropologist Wu Xinji.
And what does that suggest?
Based on analyzing late Homo sapiens fossils found in China, fossils showing a mix of older and modern traits, it suggests continuous evolution within China alongside gene flow, interbreeding with incoming groups.
So local evolution and interaction, not just replacement.
That's the core idea. And there's archaeological evidence cited too, like continuity in stone tool technology in China, no major sudden breaks or replacement.
Suggesting local populations persisted and adapted.
Right. It's still a very active area of research and discussion, a compelling alternative narrative.
Definitely highlights the importance of looking closely at regional evidence. Okay, what about another fundamental shift? The origins of agriculture.
Agriculture. A true revolution. Deliberately growing crops, domesticating animals. It changed everything.
Where does that story start in China?
Well, we see early cultivation of foxtail millet in the Yellow River Basin, northern China, going back about 8,000 years ago.
Millet in the north.
Right. And that spread out even to the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, forming that big northern dryland farming region.
And in the south, was it different there?
Yes, indeed. Down in the middle and lower Yangtze River area, we find evidence for cultivated rice even earlier. Maybe around 10,000 years ago.
Wow, 10,000 years.
With large-scale rice farming established by about 8,000 years ago.
So North and South developed agriculture independently, basically, focusing on different crops suited to their areas.
Seems that way. Millet in the north, rice in the south, and these stable food sources from farming, they allowed people to settle down.
Build villages.
Right. Live in one place, usually on fertile plains. This fostered new crafts like pottery making, led to growing social complexity.
Laying the groundwork for.
For China's incredible 10,000-year agricultural civilization, it all starts there.
It's powerful how technology drove such huge social changes. Now, speaking of social development, the word civilization itself, it seems tricky to define.
Oh, it's very complex, often debated. We tend to look for material markers, right? Cities, bronze, writing.
Yeah, those are the common ones.
But the thing is, they didn't always appear together or at the same time in early societies. Okay. So in China, you see early villages in the Yangshao culture, then larger settlements, even city clusters with central areas in the later Longshan culture.
So cities came relatively early. What about bronze?
Bronze started being used in the late Longshan period, but it really flourished later, during the Shang and Western Zhou dynasties.
And writing. We mentioned the oracle bones are about 3,300 years old.
Right. That's the earliest developed system we've found so far. Which raises interesting questions.
Like what?
Well, should earlier periods that had other civilized features like big central settlements, standard palace foundations, amazing bronze ritual vessels like in the early Shang,
or Sangsingdui with its incredible bronzes, but no writing found yet.
Exactly. Should we say they weren't civilized just because we haven't found writing from that specific time or place?
It really challenges a rigid definition based just on writing or bronze.
It absolutely does. And some scholars focus more on the state, political structures, governance as the key marker.
But that's even harder to see archaeologically, isn't it? Less tangible.
Much harder. Involves non-material things, so there's even more disagreement there. Because of all this complexity, China launched the Origin Tracing Project for Chinese Civilization.
A major national project to tackle this question.
Yes, it's a huge undertaking. One key insight coming out is recognizing highly developed ancient cultures in both the Yellow River and Yangtze River basins during the Neolithic peak.
So flourishing in parallel.
And interacting. Lots of exchange, collision between these diverse cultures, leading to complex ideas, art that went way beyond just technical skill.
And these ideas spread.
Yes, they achieved a surprising degree of consistency, shared understanding across a pretty wide area.
Can you give an example of that shared culture before the usual markers?
Sure. Think about the sunbird logo, the symbol for China cultural heritage.
Yes, I've seen that.
It's based on a gold ornament from the Jinsha site, Upper Yangtze. But remarkably similar sunbird combinations appear way earlier, like 8,000 to 6,000 years ago, in the Gao Miao and Hamudu cultures down in the mid-lower Yangtze.
Wow, so that motif, that idea, was shared across a vast area, thousands of years before widespread bronze or writing.
Exactly. It suggests shared cosmology, early religious ideas, artistic forms, long before those later developments.
That's a powerful illustration of deep, shared roots.
Indeed. These unified underlying ideas, they laid the ideological foundation, the cultural roots, for that pluralistic yet unified Chinese civilization we see later.
This has been a truly illuminating deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from specific sites to these huge questions about origins. Now, the host in the original video, he raised a really interesting point about why archaeology matters now.
What was that?
Referencing President Xi, he talked about exploring the unknown, tracing origins, linking it to how important memory is for families, regions, nations, and how archaeology helps correct errors in written records, recover lost info.
To better serve the present and future. That's a crucial connection.
Yeah. And the documentary, What Makes China, was mentioned too, trying to fill in the history before writing, asking, why China?
Right. There's a strong sense in Chinese culture about its own continuous story, which maybe differs in emphasis from cultures with stronger religious frameworks as their main narrative.
And that idea of pluralistic unity comes back again. Shared motifs, like the dragon, appearing in different places like Liangzhu and Sangsendui.
Exactly. Showing underlying connections despite the regional flavors and, with new finds constantly coming up, especially at places like Sangsendui.
It feels like the story's always being updated.
It absolutely is. Every discovery adds another piece to this huge, complex puzzle of origins and cultural narratives. And it's important to remember, early written history was very focused on the Central Plains.
Right.
And later, Sichuan Bashu, the southeast. But Chinese civilization is much bigger. Yellow River, Yangtze, other basins, parts of the plateaus.
So traditional history only gave part of the picture.
Largely from that Central Plains perspective, yes. Archaeology is vital for bringing the stories of all these other regions into the light, giving us a fuller, richer understanding of the whole civilization.
It's a reminder that history isn't static. It's this ongoing process of discovery and interpretation.
Precisely. And discoveries constantly challenge old ideas. We also have to admit interpretations are always influenced by, our current culture, ideas, research trends.
Like the saying, all history is contemporary history.
Exactly. And unlike science, you can't really prove or disprove history definitively, which is why it keeps its mysteries and fascination.
Have there been cases where archaeology really forced a major rethink of old ideas?
Oh, definitely. Take Sangsendui again. Initially, people tried to connect those amazing human-like heads to myths about a deity called Zulong, human head, snake, or dragon body.
Okay. Based on existing myths?
Right. But closer studies show the Sangsendui figures were actually human-headed, but bird-bodied.
Ah, so the archaeology corrected the interpretation.
Directly challenged and corrected it. It shows how careful you have to be.
The public fascination with Sangsendui is intense, isn't it? Why does it grab people so much, maybe more than some other ancient sites?
That's a great question. I think a big part is just how different it looks. The art style, the ritual practices, they're distinct from the Central Plains cultures we often learn about first.
Like the statues instead of ancestral tablets.
Exactly. Central Plains focused on ancestral worship with tablets. Sangsendui creates these elaborate, kind of mysterious deity and human statues. Maybe substitutes for people in rituals? We don't know for sure.
Adds to the mystery.
And their ritual vessels are interesting too. Lots of wine vessels, it seems, but maybe not so many for meat or grain, which differs from other places. Plus, the way the finds were concentrated.
In those pits.
Yeah, especially the later pits, packed together. It suggests maybe the remains of a whole temple complex deliberately buried.
And weren't there exotic things found too? Like shells?
Yes, cowrie shells, used as currency. Wow. The easy assumption is they came from the south coast nearby.
But maybe not.
Well, detailed analysis points towards a much longer trade route, possibly from the north via the Hexi Corridor, through places like Afghanistan, India.
Wow, that implies incredible long-distance connections.
It really does. It just shows archaeology is meticulous work. You need tons of research to piece together a reliable picture.
Okay, the video also mentioned how Western perspectives often define civilization by writing. Since China's oracle bones are, say, 3,500 years old, how does China argue for its longer history using archaeology?
That's a crucial point of discussion. First, while the oracle bones are the earliest developed script we've found, that script already has at least 5,000 identified characters. That level of complexity strongly suggests a long period of development before that.
Likely on materials that just didn't last, like wood or bamboo.
Exactly. So the absence of earlier surviving records doesn't automatically mean writing didn't exist in some form earlier.
That's a really important distinction. Lack of evidence isn't evidence of lack.
Precisely. And similarly, the Western emphasis on bronze, well, China had this incredibly sophisticated jade culture, like Liangzhu, much earlier.
So the available materials mattered. Bronze ore versus jade.
It likely played a big role. Maybe a universal checklist for civilization markers based on specific materials isn't the best approach everywhere. Cultures adapt and express complexity differently.
And cultures also change over time, becoming more distinct.
Generally, yes. You might see more common threads in very early prehistoric periods, and then increasing regional differences in the Bronze and Iron Ages.
It really stresses understanding each civilization in its own context.
Absolutely. And Chinese history is, well, China's history. It has its own long tradition of historiography, going back to Sima Qin.
The grand historian.
Right. He set rules for recording history, covering legendary periods, Xia, Shang, Zhou. His accounts of Shang and Zhou have been largely backed up by oracle bones.
Which lends credibility to his earlier accounts, like the Xia dynasty.
That's the argument some make. Even though we haven't found Xia writing yet, the reliability of his later accounts suggests his record of Xia might also be based on solid tradition. There's still academic debate, East and West.
But the drive is to use archaeology to support China's own historical narrative.
Yes, there's a strong feeling that China's story must be written by ourselves, using the evidence we find.
That makes sense. We actually got some great audience questions that tie into all this. First one is from Du Mingming in Shanghai. How can cultural relics be brought to life and onto the world stage beyond just, like, creative mooncakes or merchandise?
Excellent question, Du Mingming. I think the key is active use. Display them in museums, at sites. Make them accessible, not locked away.
But just seeing them isn't enough. Right?
Yeah. Crucially, we need to tell their stories. The history, the culture behind them, how they fit into the bigger story of the Chinese nation. That makes them more than objects. They become, spiritual sustenance, inspiration.
Like that animated scroll at the Shanghai Expo.
Exactly. Along the river during the Qingming Festival animation was a fantastic example. Using tech to make history vivid, understandable, and museum labels are getting better too, giving context, helping you imagine the lives connected to the artifacts.
Okay, next question is from Zhu Xingliang, a student in Shanghai. Inspired by seeing young people working at Dui, Zhu asks how we can encourage more young people into history and archaeology research, given worries about careers.
A vital question for the future, Zhu Xinglang. First, it's important to know these teams, archaeology, heritage preservation, they're often part of national public institutions. Stable jobs.
Okay, so there is a structure.
Yes. And as the economy grows, investment in culture and heritage grows too. Right now, honestly, many places are short-staffed. Archaeological institutes, museums, they need people.
Really? There's a shortage?
In many places, yes. My home province, for example, needs to fill at least 90 new positions. Now, field work can be tough, sure, and there's lots of data processing.
But maybe better incentives could help.
I think so. Better incentives, clear career paths. We saw after that documentary, Masters in the Forbidden City, interest in relic restoration surged among young people.
Showing that meaning matters to them.
It does. But we also need systems to ensure those skilled technical roles have security and advancement potential. Overall, a society that values this work is key.
Absolutely. Our last question is from Shang Wei, working at an internet company. Shang asks about the positive effects of Chinese culture's foundations: diligence, thrift, humility, etc., and its capacity for tolerance and assimilation on China's development and global interactions.
That's a wonderful question, Xiangwei, linking past and present. I'd say Chinese culture has historically been very open, very enlightened. It has, in a way, seen the world.
Through long interaction.
Yes. Think of the saying, "Oh, meh. Among three walking, one must be my teacher." It shows that openness to learning.
And absorbing things from outside.
Completely. Look at the erhu instrument from Central Asia. Or ping pong, originally English table tennis. They came from outside but became thoroughly Chinese.
Why is there such tolerance, do you think?
I think part of it stems from the humanistic core, rather than a strict religious base. It leads to human-centered values, the philosophy of moderation that fosters inclusivity.
And the diversity within China itself?
Absolutely. The vast territory, many ethnic groups coalescing over time into the Chinese nation, that builds inherent tolerance, this amazing ability to assimilate. Unity and diversity is key.
Allowing different views to coexist.
Yes. Discussing, debating without fear, it fosters national self-confidence.
This has been absolutely fascinating, an incredibly insightful deep dive into understanding China through archaeology's lens. The sheer amount we covered is amazing, and clearly there's so much more still to discover.
The potential is enormous.
For those of you listening who've been captivated and want more, keep an eye on this channel for future programs on archaeology and related topics. As we've heard, that willingness to discuss different views, debate them without fear, that's a sign of confidence.
Indeed.
We want to say a huge thank you to our expert guest for sharing such invaluable knowledge.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for joining us. For more content, check out our social media. Here at The Deep Dive, we aim to help you understand and position China in a clearer, more informed way.
And maybe I can leave you with one final thought to chew on. Given how dynamic archaeology is, how new finds constantly reshape history, how might future discoveries further change our view of Chinese civilization's origins, its unique path, and its relationship with the rest of the world?